And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Wrestling Rewind here on YouTube. And thank you for joining us. Again, it's been a long time since you've been here on YouTube, some technical difficulties, but if you are joining us on the stream, thank you so much. And yeah, comment. We also taking calls later on this show. If you're listening to us on Phoenix 92.5 FM, welcome. If you're listening to us on the True Penny Show, welcome. But what are you doing? Go over to Nerd to Know Media, go over to WrestlingRewind.com because that's where you're able to find when we do these random streams. But I'm not alone. I am joined by my co-host for the evening. Introduce yourself, sir.
How you doing? I'm Martin Herty, the boss from Cross, the Cross McGlenn Crippler, whichever you prefer.
I love it. I love it. Man, it's been a week for you, I have to say. We have so much to talk about. I don't know how we're going to get through all of it, but there's just so much that has changed, so much that's happened. Where do you want to start? Because obviously, hold on, before we do it, we haven't not even over yet. NXT's on tonight. It's going to be, a show that couldn't be arsed watching, but it's still happening. And we just came off AEW, and we also had SummerSlam last night on a Saturday, which, just can I say, WWE, all pay-per-views should be on a Saturday night. It's the best way to do it. I'm just going to say that now. But I'm going to hand the driver's seat over to you, sir. Where do you want to start?
Well, just very quickly, I want to start by completely agreeing with you, but saying that it's probably a lost cause. I don't think we're going to see many pay-per-views on Saturday nights. AEW actually started off doing that.
Yeah,
it was kind of Tony Khan's kind of nod towards his fans this side of the pond. But I think the stats just show that you get far better pickup in the US of a Sunday. So
yeah, it sucks. It really does. But it's just like, it just makes things so much easier. Like, you can watch the show, you're not in bits the next day. You can really think about it. Like, it's weird. It doesn't feel like a Monday, but it kind of does, because after the wrestling show, you're in work. But yeah, man, I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It's weird. I don't know why it was on a Saturday, but
there was something to do with because NXT's on tonight. Right. I don't know if it's to do with the laws they have in Las Vegas, because there was a few things different about this show. Like, they weren't allowed pyro. They were told they had to be out at a certain time due to some boxing match that was on. That was
the Pascal match or something like that was it? The first one. Yeah.
Real fighting, no interest.
Yeah, no. I like my fate. I like my sport fake. That's what I have to go with. But it was a weird show from start to finish. And I guess, look, we'll talk about it as we're recording this or going out live. It's the day after, so if you're listening to this on Phoenix FM, obviously you're going to be getting it a couple of days after the fact. But it was a weird show, and like, from start to finish, watching it, I had this weird sense of secondhand embarrassment for WWE. For loads of reasons, but it just, the kickoff show, I usually don't watch it, but I actually, the music upset me to such a point I had to watch it. Like, I had to turn the sound off, because whatever that soundtrack was, I just got myself progressively more and more angry as the show continued, and I was like, no, I just can't listen to that anymore.
Cardi B, was it?
I don't know what it was, but whoever it was should be brought up to The Hague for war crimes, because it was the worst thing ever done by a human.
How do you follow up WAP anyway?
Oh man, I don't know. It was just, like, at least with WAP, the wireless access point parody was amazing. But with that, I was like, what is this absolute garbage? And I've said it for a while, don't get me wrong, not every show needs to have like heavy metal or something like that, but it just kills any kind of atmosphere on the show. It's like, how am I supposed to get into something when it's like I'm in a club? It's supposed to be a combat form of entertainment.
I mean, it has to match. It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific genre, but it has to match the tone. And it didn't match either, like you say, the combat tone or the biggest party of the summer tone. It was just very odd.
It was very odd. Like, it's like, and this is one thing that the Attitude Era got so well, where the music was integral to it, But even up until 2005, 2006, they still kind of knew what was going on. But from the get-go, I was like, there is no... And to be fair, AEW does this really well too, where their music matches the tone of the show. But from the get-go, I'm like, I don't know what the tone of this show is, because there's nothing for me to get into. It's just bad. It's just bad.
Speaking of AEW music, I mean, AEW must be on the verge of releasing a record or a soundtrack, because they
Mhm.
have Jungle Boy's Tarzan Boy. They have Cult of Personality now. We
Yep.
know they have that.
And they're probably going to have the final countdown when Bryan Danielson comes in.
Now, maybe it was you told me this, but did someone not try to commission the final countdown before? And is ABBA, is it?
No, it's Eruption.
Eruption. Well, someone tried to commission the final countdown before, and I think they charged them, or tried to charge them, 50 grand every time they use it.
I believe it. I think Tony Khan will pay it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think he'd pay it. Like, you know, I don't know. I just think it's one of those things where AEW, and we will get into AEW obviously.
Yeah.
But it's just, they just seem to be doing everything right, you know. While WWE just fall further and further into this pit. And, you know, obviously this is the only podcast by wrestling fans who don't hate wrestling. So we're not going to hate on it. But I'm just for the get-go. Like, I didn't hate SummerSlam. It confused me so much that I don't understand what happened at SummerSlam. I was tweeting up to a point when I was like, okay, I'm gonna like, once Becky Lynch showed up, I was like, oh great, good for her. Okay, I'm going to bed. You know, it's like, you know, it's not going to get much better than this.
And if you'd have stayed up another 30 seconds, you would have seen the whole Becky Lynch segment.
No, well, I did. I you know, and I saw the outrage too, which we'll talk about obviously, because I think a lot of it's justified, but also maybe not. But, you know, we'll get into it. Okay, so the first match. Look, let's get into it. The pre-show, Big E and Baron Corbin. So obviously Baron Corbin is doing this whole down on his luck kind of thing, where he's no longer the king, and he had stolen the 2021 Money in the Bank briefcase. So Big E was trying to get it back. Logan Paul showed up. And already I was like, oh god, no, we're already at a bad thing. And the whole time as well, remember, like, on Friday night, AEW broke the wrestling world.
Yeah.
They created a wrestling moment that will live on in infamy for decades.
An all-time moment, just.
And WWE, their first thing is Logan Paul. It's like, oh god.
Well, I don't know. They really seem to love the YouTube celebrities. I don't know if they think that they appeal to a younger demographic. But I mean, for all the people who follow YouTube celebrities, they also get their own really specialized kind of hatred that other celebrities don't get.
No, and that's it. You know, with the celebrity thing, I'm all for it, and I think it's a cool way to do it. And WWE have always done it, but the people who they get just don't make any sense. You know, like AC Slater showed up last night, and I'm like, cool, but why? Like, it's just so random. You know, it's like, I just don't understand it. So, right, but that was fair enough. B defeated Corbin, and, you know, that was it. And I'm like, okay.
Did he get the briefcase back? I didn't watch the pre-show.
Yeah, he did. So Corbin attempted to run off with the briefcase, but Big E got it, and that's how the whole Logan Paul thing showed up. The match itself wasn't terrible. It just kind of happened. It was your average WWE C level match. You know, that was about it. But as I said,
that's pretty much the theme for the night.
But dude, we said this before we went on there. The team, the actual crowd hated everything about this match.
Yeah.
And the whole night I was watching them going, wow, or trying to listen for some kind of reaction, and it just never really happened, with the exception of Cena, Brock, and Becky. And that was about it. And other than that, like, we'll get into it. Like, a lot of titles actually changed hands here tonight as well, and people just didn't care. Again, anyone listening or anyone listening, you know, email us in your thoughts or get us on the social media. But if you're on the stream here, guys, leave your comments in the chat so we can read them out. We'll be opening up the phone lines at the top of the hour. Okay.
Well, look, this is, I'm not going to do this all night, so I just want to get this out of the way now, because I honestly don't think it's fair to spend a lot of time comparing AEW and WWE, because they're very different products.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to.
I'm gonna.
Oh, you're gonna? All right.
But I just thought I'd preface it by acknowledging that I know it's not fair.
Well, okay. Well, look, look, I have no problem with you doing that. I don't think anybody. But, like, for me on that, I would say I'm very AEW hesitant, So I think I'll balance it out in that way.
Right.
But when you're given a show like this, which is your biggest show of the year with exception of WrestleMania, it was terrible.
Well,
it was terrible.
There was 15,000 people at Rampage,
Yeah.
and you thought that building was going to collapse. Like, it was passion, it was fire. Like, it wasn't just noise. You know, there was real soul to it.
Yeah.
And there was 50,000 people at SummerSlam, and it was noisy at times, but there was nothing to it. Like, you're looking through the crowd, and a lot of them are just sitting there watching. You know, there was no real sense of involvement. There was no sense of urgency.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know everybody slagged them over it, but like, at Rampage, there was lads crying in the crowd, you know. Yeah. And this one, like you say, apart from 4 or 5 big moments and maybe a couple of spots, because like I say, the Reigns Cena match, and I'm not a big fan of either of them, was probably the match of the night, and it got a couple of well-deserved responses from the crowd. But yeah, overall, just unbelievably dead. Sorry,
we had a cameo from my sister's pup there. She wanted to be on. She agrees with you, Martin. She agrees with you. But no, that was it. Like, as you said, it was a very, very soulless show, you know. And I had it on the iPad, watching it, and I was like, you know, because watching AEW the night before, while I'm still very hesitant about the product. Watching it on the stream, and I must say, was it TNT? TNT's app is actually quite good. If you sign in and use the VPN, you can kind of just watch it. And I appreciate, it's pretty cool. And that's how I watched it. But I was just like, the whole time the show it felt like a wrestling show. It felt like it had something to say. Now, we'll get into it. Like, Taz on commentary, I hate it so much I can't put into words. But you know, even that aside, it still had that wild feel, and the crowd had signs, and they were super into it. And as you said, your man was crying and everything, which is, you know, it's like, I hear, man, come on, you know. But you know,
I get it though. Like,
I get it too. But you know,
one moment that really got me in wrestling was when Jake the Snake showed up in AEW, and I've always been a huge Jake fan. You know, but obviously he's had his
ups and downs,
troubles over the years.
Yeah.
And, you know, saw the DDP documentary and the resurrection of Jake the Snake and Beyond the Mat and all that. And, you know, just seeing him walk into a ring and, you know, be fine, you know, and be healthy enough again to actually be part of a show, like that teared me up.
Well, that was it. You know, I think that makes sense. Like, we will get into the CM Punk thing, and you know, I'm hesitant to not go into it, because if we go into it, we won't get anything else covered.
Yeah,
but
right.
because I know the way we're going to be. But you know, I do think it's important, like, to kind of bear in mind that when just from having, and again, like, Rampage was only, you know, it was 2 hours or something like that. It wasn't like a long show, and it wasn't even like an important show. You know, they're only setting stuff up, and this whole show, again, second biggest show of the year, and had title changes, and the crowd just did not care. You know, I don't even know why you'd go to a show if you just didn't care. But then again, WWE kept doing stuff to make them not care. So look, the almost AJ Styles match, right, with RK Bro, it was fine, but it was fine. You know, I don't really know what they were trying to do, but you know, if it was just to get RK Bro over and give them the belts, well, then fair enough. It's not like AJ Styles and almost have defended the belts and had like a historic run with them. They just kind of, you know, I did see a change happening here.
Yeah, I mean, look, like you say, in ring, it's never going to be too bad when you have Riddle and AJ in the ring. Yeah. I mean, the two great wrestlers.
And Orton. Orton works up. Orton works up. Orton always works up. So whoever he's in the ring with is fine. You know?
Yeah, this is where I don't know. I don't know what people see in Orton. He just,
as I said,
bores me to tears.
No, as I said, he works up. So whoever he's in the ring with, he has the ability to work up to. If he's
level up.
Yeah. So if he's in the ring with AJ Styles, it's like, okay, it's kind of hard to have a bad match with AJ Styles, you know. If he's in the ring with oh, what's his name? Baron Corbin. Yeah, you're probably going to have a bad time, you know, and that's it with Orton. You know, I agree. He is very boring, but he is capable of putting together a decent match. And that match he had with Edge, the greatest wrestling match ever, that was pretty amazing, to be fair.
But it was a cinematic match, or it was
Yeah,
recorded and re-recorded, and you know.
But how do you feel about them winning the belts, though? Do you think it matters, or?
I mean, like the way WWE treats tag teams.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure the belts are there for them to lose them, to lead to the breakup, to lead to Orton, you know, turning on Riddle, and you know, but like it was a decent opener. In ring was all good. There wasn't much at it almost, but I suppose
very little.
He only needs to do his huge thing. What I did appreciate was Randy Orton's new facial hair. He looks like a magician.
He's got he looks like one of those old-timey magicians, you know.
Yeah. Do you ever see that episode of The It Crowd where Jen breaks up with a guy because he looks like a magician?
You look like a magician.
Every time he's holding a drink, he's like, "Yeah, you can see I have it here."
Oh man,
that's what I thought Orton should have been doing.
I love the IT crowd; it's so good. But look, the pay-per-view, as I said, was fine. And then the wheels started to kind of come off. And the next match is when the wheels fell off completely and it broke down the side of the road. And you had to call AA to come out, or AXA to come out and pick them up.
Well, I tell you what, and I don't know if you saw this it depends where you watched it.
I watched it on the network.
Right. Yeah. Well, so just before the next match came on, there was an advertisement with Charlotte Flair advertising this new WWE credit card, whatever it is.
Right.
But the guy she was in the ad with was for absolutely no reason dressed up as a Roman soldier.
Right.
And I was wondering if that was a kind of a jab at Ric Flair, because whenever he left WCW to go to WWE the first time, they didn't want to call him Ric Flair. They had designed a Roman soldier's costume for him and wanted to call him the Spartan, even though Sparta and Rome are different. But
they're very different, yeah. Well, maybe, but I don't know. If anyone's watching the stream, let us know. Is that credit card tied to, and like when weird stuff happens like that on WWE, I just assume it's a weird American company or a weird American thing. This is why Dave should be here, because Dave would know the answer to that. But I don't know. We might ask him.
But it's just they have a long history of taking like cheap jabs at people, you know, through wee winks and nods in the show.
That would be a deep cut, though. That would be like, you know, really out of the way. But then again, it might be. Like, I think it's, you know, if anyone knows, let us know, because that would be like a real deep cut. And also, like, come on, WWE. Like, if you want to make fun of Ric Flair, there's loads of things to make fun of Ric Flair about. Like, literally, his genitals were on the internet there for anyone to see randomly.
Is this him on the train?
I haven't seen it myself, but my friend was like, I've seen it and I can't unsee it. And I'm like, why did you go look for it? you knew nothing good was coming from it. But yeah, so I don't know, man. At least Ric Flair and WWE had him under control. Now he's back out of being controlled. Do you remember the time he was here in with TNA, and then he was drinking in the bar and he got like arrested for like drinking far too much here?
In Ireland?
Yeah. This was years ago now. This is the show. Actually, it was a great TNA show. It was one of my favorite times of being a wrestling fan. And we were there. It was a house show in the National Stadium. And he was there. And this is the night where it was like Flair for T-Shock was the chant as well. Sting had to show up because Jeff Hardy was not allowed in the country because of his drug charges. And it was a great man. It's also where I think that was the one before where AJ and Angle had like best match I've ever seen, 30-minute banger.
Wow.
But this night had had Matt Hardy and RVD.
Class.
It was a really good night. But following off from that, Ric Flair had a better night than everybody and ended up getting like kicked off the tour for drinking far too much. So
well, like I say, speaking of car crashes, this next match,
I'm looking at the Bleacher Report and they gave it an F, and I don't think that's low enough. I don't know for what happened here. Like, look, I love Alexa Bliss, and I know Alexa Bliss is injured, so there's very little she can actually like do. But Jesus, like,
But if people are injured, let them go home and recover and bring them back. Don't do this.
well, there's a couple of things, right? One, the crowd were chanting for Bray Wyatt, and also here's the thing: breaking news from the Observer. It looks like Bray Wyatt is going to AEW.
I hope not.
Well, that's what the Observer is saying. It's not
Yes.
it's not pen to paper, but it's heavily implied that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I saw Dave Meltzer talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, he people slag him off, but he's the preeminent wrestling journalist. Like he's right more than he's wrong.
Yeah.
I just hope this isn't one of the. I just don't see him fitting well.
He doesn't fit at all. No, he doesn't fit at all. Although Matt Hardy's there, and he could like essentially to bring him in, he could be leader of the Dark Order. So maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to do with the Dark Order. I mean, they've kind of fallen into this lovable babyface grouping because obviously of the death of Brody Lee.
Yeah.
And you can't really turn them after that.
Yeah.
Do you bring in a new leader? Do you let the group go all together? Like I don't know what to do with the Dark Order. Although that sounds like almost despairing. Like every time they come on TV, they're great. They're fun. Their matches are class. Johnny Silver's brilliant. Like Stu Grayson and Evil Uno are class.
But I can see that happening. I can see him coming in and doing it. Like, you know, Matt Hardy's there, so there is precedent to do that kind of weird stuff. But I don't know.
Yeah, but he came in and Matt Hardy came in and he pushed the sort of magic stuff early, and it really did not get a good response from AEW fans, and they dropped it very quickly.
I think Impact will be a better call, but here's the thing: if you get signed by AEW, he can go to Impact, which is probably what would happen.
Yeah. So. I don't know. I also think, like, you know, they've got Punk now. Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson's, you know, allegedly coming in the next couple of weeks as well. You know, they still have a lot of their own guys that they can build up and develop, and I would put a bit of a halt on taking in at least big names. You know, like
I'm with you. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah,
Daniel Garcia and Everrise, like they were great to bring in because they're great guys, but at the moment they're not top names. So I'd put a bit of a halt on taking in top names for a while.
No, I agree, and I think like I do think he'll come in, but I think the smart move would be like, right, we'll pay your salary, but you're going to Impact. You know, that would be a better use of his time because he can actually be the top guy in Impact and be fine, and maybe improve on being in the ring.
Yeah, and Impact has a history of, you know, slightly more out there.
Yeah, like Abyss was there for ages doing mad stuff. Raven, you know, it'd be great, and it's just I don't think anyone has given any thought, and WWE are case in point here, where they didn't think, oh wait, hold on, our fans are going to be upset by losing the Fiend, and then we're going to bring out female Fiend, and and not even in a good match as well. They start doing stuff with the doll, and it's like, what are you doing?
And the doll is already stretching your credulity to breaking point, but then when they have these CGI graphics with the doll winking and the doll sitting up on its own, and it's terrible. To be honest, it killed the show for me there.
Yeah,
right through till the main event.
Really,
because even the other stuff that should have been, you know, should have maybe boosted you up a wee bit. Becky Lynch, like we'll get to it, but Becky Lynch came in.
Yeah.
Did 30 seconds.
We'll get to it. This was a mortal wound for the show, to be fair. At this point, I'm like, I don't really care. And again, the commentary is so horrifically bad, with the exception of what's your man? Your
Pat McAfee.
I like Pat McAfee. He's brilliant. Just let him do the whole show.
I literally have that down on a note here that McAfee was the only one I could listen to.
Like every time he'd come on, I'd be like, and I you know, the SmackDown stuff, I'd be like, right, Pat's there, so at least it'd be all right. But the Raw stuff, instant mute. Just let him do all the shows. He's great. He's the only good one they have.
The other thing was, like, so Alexa's working hurt Apparently, I didn't know that. So Alexa's working hurt. They're already hamstrung by this bollocks with the doll. And Eva Marie is an okay wrestler and a terrible actress.
Oh, no, you know who's the worst actor? Goldberg's son. He's the worst actor ever. We'll get to that, but yeah, even he's pretty bad. But Goldberg's son is, oh man, we'll get to that. We will get to that match. Holy cow, we'll get to that match.
It's not as bad as it was during the sort of pandemic era or the empty arena era, or whatever calling it. But the whole way through the empty arena era, I don't know if they were instructed to do it, but WWE wrestlers would monologue the whole way through matches. They would talk the whole way through them. I don't know if it was maybe because there was no crowd noise or what. So it's not as bad now, but they're still doing it, and it still makes me cringe. When Eva Marie laughed here, she was supposed to do like a big evil laugh or whatever. She literally said, "Ha ha ha," like it must have been written in the script.
Oh no. Oh god. Yeah, no, the whole thing was just horrific. And then your one came out, her floozy. I was like, what is this terrible match? And I don't know. WWE, I don't know what you're doing. Like, again, I think that's like, I didn't hate the show. I just don't understand what you're doing. I'm like, are you not watching the AEW or smashing your face in, and you're not even trying? So,
but never mind like what AEW doing. I mean, look at your own fans. Like, nobody likes this stuff.
Nobody likes it.
Listen to the crowd when nobody's into it.
Well, look, the next match with Damian Priest and Sheamus. So when Damian Priest won, nobody cared, and I felt so sorry for him, because I'm like, you've been really trying. This was a good match, and nobody. Actually, it was probably match of the card, to be fair, and nobody cared. Nobody. The title change happened, and it was like, oh, okay.
They overcomplicate stuff so much. Like, I don't get this face mask gimmick to have Sheamus doing. Like, Sheamus is class. Let him just go out and
be Sheamus.
Batter lads.
Yeah.
That's all he needs to do.
The bar was like the perfect use for Sheamus.
Oh, fantastic.
With this, it's like the Priest thing has been coming for a while. They nearly killed that character dead with the zombie battle royale a couple of months ago. And by coming back and being like, right, there's going to have a match, and Sheamus can have a match. And obviously, I think Priest is like going to be a big star for them. But holy cow, man, like, you have to be careful, because this guy could just disappear and go the way of Andrade or something like that very, very quickly.
Yeah. See, and I was a wee bit disappointed in this, because, like I say, Sheamus is great, and he normally can, on the pay-per-views, pull it out and give you a real sort of knockdown, drag-out brawl. This, to me, was just a good Raw match. This would have been a good Raw match.
The pay-per-view at best felt like a good Raw. That's what I mean. It didn't feel like a pay-per-view. Rampage felt like a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and it was only an hour long.
Rampage felt like a pay-per-view. This didn't. At no point.
Speaking of the commentary, there was a lane in this that just exemplified the whole night. Like, WWE commentators just say things, catchphrases, lines, whatever. None of it makes sense. At one stage, Priest kicked Sheamus off the ring, and I can't remember who said it, but the commentator said, Damian Priest has had a tough life. He grew up in nightclubs and with the dregs of society. What is that?
That's a Vince McMahon line. He's screaming that in the back. He's like, oh, we need to go, give him this. This is some good, what? And you're like, what are you talking about?
He grew up in nightclubs.
Again, I didn't listen to it with commentary. I knew better. I knew the stupid was coming. So I just did. I had it on in the background. I was bagging on board in comics at the same time. I was like looking over going, yeah, it's still bad. But oh Jesus, WWE, man. Like, this needs to get sold soon. Like, just sell it to anyone,
Well, the thing is, like, no one's going to buy it and improve it. They're going to buy it and just keep it going as a cash cow.
Yeah.
I don't entirely believe that the stadium told them they couldn't use pyro.
Yeah.
Because I've seen pyro be used in tiny buildings.
In Vegas, though.
Well, maybe not. I don't know specifically where, but I find it difficult to believe that in Las Vegas, the biggest, gaudiest place in the world, that an
That's a fair
open
point.
air stadium has a
Yeah.
rule against pyro.
Yeah, no, I was looking at I was actually on Twitter live tweeting the show, and I haven't done that in a while. But as I was on there, Brian Alvarez was talking about like regulations, and he did mention that the show had to be over at a certain time. But the firework thing, I don't think he talked about, and that was kind of it's weird because it shows that they're back to cutting money again, and it's like it's SummerSlam. It's the one show you're supposed to spend money on, you know.
That's what I suspect. I could be wrong, but that's just what I suspected.
Right, well, look on to the next match. So there was the tag team championships, the Mysterios versus the Usos, and straight away I was like, the Mysterios aren't winning this because they want to have that shot with Roman Reigns with the belts, and that's exactly the shot that he had later on. So
Yeah.
it was pointless kind of having them. The match itself wasn't bad. Dominic is just, he's not a bad wrestler. He needs to go off to like New Japan for a while and like carve out a character.
Yeah.
And then come back, and then he'd be great. But
he is very much a wrestler's son.
He's a wrestler's son.
That's just I can't. But he like you say, he's technically proficient.
Yeah,
he did a lot of his moves he did in the ring. Like he did that sort of bounce up and over the top to the outside. It was all good stuff. Yep. But when I see him, I just see someone's kid.
And there's things you can do that for you. You can pass the mantle over. Ray can give him the mask and go, "You're Dominic Mysterio. You're carrying the Mysterio name now." But then you get rid of Rey Mysterio. Doing this have your cake and eat it too thing. It's like, oh, it doesn't come off right. You know what it's like. You know exactly what it's like. David Flair. but not as bad. It's like
not as bad.
Not as bad. It's like David Flair showing up, and you're like, why is he here? Every time I see Dominic, I'm like, why is he here? It makes no sense. It's just like, what are you doing?
We give David Flair a good ripping into last week.
Last week, yeah. If anyone hasn't heard last week's show, we really do go into him hard. But I don't know. I feel bad for Dominic because like if he went off and got a character, I think he could be like almost better than his dad, because totally different. He carries himself better in the ring. He's not broken down, and he's younger. He's quite young. But Jesus, man, like when he comes out and it's like, no, you've no character.
And the other thing is, this is it. I mean, this is bound to be Rey Mysterio's last run. I'd like to see him do a couple of big singles matches. Do his own thing.
Exactly. But this is why Mysterio came back, because it's in the contract that they're going to give Dominic a big push. And set him up. So,
but send him back to the Performance Center or NXT and get him.
No, dude. I think it's better to send them off to. Don't be in the WWE. Be a hot commodity in Mexico. Be a hot commodity in Japan.
But do they have those relationships in Mexico and Japan?
They don't. He should just leave and go off and do it. If I was saying, well, no, money, everybody likes money. Again, you can donate to us if you want to. But no, like, look, everyone likes money, and sure, he's like, if they're going to put you in the major league straight away. But I mean, like, if you're thinking as like an artist, you're like, well, how can I be a better artist to go off and learn your craft? And I don't think he's done that. Like working in front of nobody and then working in front of crowds with your dad. It's like,
it's left them without a character, as you say, of his own. But I don't know what the solution is, because if someone said to me, "Hey, Martin, do you want to do 6 weeks training and we'll put you on the main event in SummerSlam?" I'd go yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, you're not going to say no to that, right? We're going to put you can be the place where it's a peak performance after 6 months and get paid a ton of money. You're going to do it. But I think maybe in about 10 years he'll be like, actually, I kind of want to go off, and then we'll see a Cody Rhodes kind of thing. I can see that happening, But then again, once his dad is under contract, I think he's all right. The real danger becomes when his dad isn't under contract. And then it's like, all right, let's see where you fall. So
we know exactly how sentimental Vince isn't.
Yeah. So that's where I'm like, right, let's see what happens once Ray's gone. And for me, I'm like, right, how much is your value worth? So, it sucks for him because he is quite good.
Yeah, like you said,
he is quite good. It's a shame.
The whole thing with this match, like I wrote one note for this match,
Right.
and it's I didn't know that the WWE tag belts have Velcro on them.
Really?
And that's the note I wrote, because everything else about the match was just it was a microcosm of the whole show. It was fine. It was fine.
You know, I don't think WWE needs 2 tag belts.
No, not
I
Raw and SmackDown,
yeah,
especially with the way they treat tag teams. And
yeah, they don't need, like, they only have like 6. What did we say last week? 32 people. Is everyone's going to have a belt? Is that what we're going to do? You know, because it's like, what's the point? You know,
exactly, 32 people, and then when you take out of that the people who aren't active wrestlers, really, like the likes of Omos and Boogs and all those, and then you take out people who are in singles feuds, like,
yeah,
it's bound to be what, 4 or 5 tag teams at most.
it makes no sense. You know, at this point, they would, you know, the way WWE are set up, you know, condense everything, combine everything, and then just have a strong roster and have your one or 2 shows a week, and then you're fine. But doing it this way, it's like, you know, having random matches, and again, like there was no title change, but you knew there was going to be no title change because the whole head of the table thing takes precedent over everything else, which should, but it's like, yeah, there's no way they're losing. It's like when you watch and again, like, it's like when you watch the shows back in the day with Evolution. Evolution aren't losing those belts. NWO aren't losing those belts because their purpose is not to be defended; it's to prop up the bigger storyline.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know what to do with them. Like I said, the match was fine.
Yeah, it was a good SmackDown or Raw match. That's what it was.
Exactly, and the whole night, apart from maybe the main event, the whole night was like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get on to a very controversial topic. And folks, again, if you want to chat in, please do. You can email us nerdtoknowmedia@gmail.com. I will set up a one for us here, but I just haven't got around to it yet. And again, we'll open up phone lines if we're going into overtime. So here's what upset a lot of people. And I do understand why, but I also don't care because it's Becky. But so I'm biased, obviously, right, with Becky because she's from down the road and I love Becky, right? Are you biased too?
In favor of Becky, 100%. Absolutely.
Right. So there we go. We're both biased.
Yeah.
So whatever we say, we're both too, you know, we're both on Becky's side. She's, you know, from here. We love her.
Becky's run up to the was WrestleMania 32 when she won the her run up to WrestleMania 32 was the last time I really was fully invested in WWE.
Right. Well, as I said, look, dude, she was the biggest star in the company and left to go have her kid, which she did, which is fair enough. You know, but she is the biggest star in the company, like without a shadow of a doubt, except for Roman Reigns maybe now, but you know, she's way more over than Seth Rollins, which is hilarious. But look, when this happened, obviously it was supposed to be Bianca Belair and Sasha. They teased everybody that was going to happen, which was, you know, really, really terrible on WWE's side. I don't know why they lied to everybody. They should have built this up more, that there was a return coming or something like that. And then they brought a Camilla, which I was like, again, I was watching this with no sound, and I'm like, what is going on? And I turned the sound back on to figure out what was going on. It turned out nobody knew that was happening. The crowd absolutely hated it. And then Becky comes out.
Before Becky came out, talking about the crowd absolutely hating it, I wound this back 2 or 3 times to make sure that I was hearing it right. But I'm almost certain there was at least one person, and they must have been very close to the edge of the ring because the camera picked them up, that was chanting at Carmella, "You're a dumb slut."
Oh God. going back to the Attitude Era.
So the crowd really didn't like it.
No, and you know, not only the crowd hate this, but I was on Twitter, and as I said, you know, Twitter is a fun way to watch wrestling sometimes, except when it's not. But my God, the Twitter feed just exploded with hate. They're like, "This is what is going on? Like, where's Sasha?" Right? And to be fair, they were promised Sasha Banks for months. for a week, but weeks, not months, but weeks. Like this was supposed to this was supposed to be a return match from WrestleMania because we never got the return match from WrestleMania, so it was months.
Okay, but if so, yeah, I can understand why people were angry, but I can guarantee you, if they had went out and Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch had tore the house down, people wouldn't have been complaining.
Yeah, well, that's the other side.
It wasn't just the fact that Sasha wasn't there.
Well, as I said, there's two elements to this. So they basically set themselves up to upset people from the get-go, right? So they set the expectation that was going to happen. Didn't happen, right? Carmelo came out. People were like, oh my God, what's this? Then Becky came out. People loved it. People freaked out and said, this is the best thing ever, which it was great to see her, right? But then, as you said, the match happened. And to call it a match is very generous. Like, I'm looking here at the Bleacher Report and they gave it an F, which is fair. But I would give it...
I don't think that's what the F stands for.
I would give it an S for squash match.
Oh, yeah. It was one move. It was...
Yeah. The manhandle slam, and that was it. But
it didn't put Becky over.
Yeah.
It buried Bianca. It completely just made nothing of Carmella. Just the whole a disaster.
Here's the bit where I stand with this. I'd be okay with this if Becky came out as a heel and this was a cash in, because she shakes her hand and then blindsides her and you're like, wait, what? Are you a heel? Like, is that what happened? Because no, this is not what you're meant to do. You're supposed to go in and have a good honorable match because Bianca's obviously giving you the shot here.
But so here's what I don't understand. I mean, is Becky not ready to return?
Well, she was supposed to return in November.
So she's fully fit and ready to go, right?
Yeah, but she was supposed to return in November. That was the plan.
Right. So, I mean, was it just short on time? I can't understand how they came to this rather than, they couldn't even knock together a 5 minute, 5 minute full tilt. Don't worry about heating the crowd out and just go out and do all your big spots. And
because the crowd was red hot when Becky came out.
And then they literally said, like, what if me and you tear the place down now? Like, it's like they were deliberately goading people.
Yeah. Again, the WWE, man, it's what they do. They just seem to be actively hostile to their fan base. And this is an example of it. Like, yeah, super happy for Becky to win. I was happy to see her. I'm happy she has the belt, but nobody benefited here. They took a great match that they could have had. The pop, which again, it's a return pop, so it's going to be hot no matter what. And they threw it away.
Well, the win has no meaning. Like, there was no victory in it. Becky didn't come out of it looking awesome. No. Like, she can't show up on SmackDown on Friday, walking out with the belt and get a huge cheer like she did after WrestleMania, because they didn't really do it and earn it. Yeah.
And I think that's it. Now, we did see some ridiculous stuff on Twitter, but Twitter's ridiculous anyway. So I'm not even going to discuss that. But I just think this was just WWE creative being WWE creative, and they have no idea what they're doing. I'm convinced they have no idea what they're doing, because I've never seen something so stupid before like this. Like, this is up there with the Daniel Bryan Sheamus 5-second match, but at least that had some kind of reason. Sheamus was a heel, right? Becky isn't.
No. And they should know what happens when they try to turn her heel. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah, no way. But anyway, the next match was hampered by a lot of the same issues earlier on. It was a very, very short match. There was not much here to talk about.
No, it was...
Bleacher Report gives it C-. I would give it a C- too. Terrible. Not terrible. Just it should have. It wasn't a SummerSlam match. It was a Raw match. A bad Raw match.
Yeah, I have it down. Just literally, my only note was another nothing match. Just not bad. Jinder and Drew can wrestle, but
they weren't allowed. They were given like what, 2 or 3 spots. That's about it.
If that, yeah.
obviously it was to, we were getting deeper into the card here, so there's 3 matches left, so they had to kind of maybe just fill for time. But like, look, and maybe that's what happened with Becky and Bianca. Maybe they're like, look, we have to get a big thing here. You only have 5 minutes, and maybe it was the same with this one as well. You only have 5 minutes, but don't do them. If you don't do them, like, why are you wasting them? If you have to rush it, don't rush it.
Because there was so much. Like, if the issue was time, there was so much nonsense here that could have cut. Like, your man,
a whole show at the beginning, the whole show up to this point, you could have just cut. Yeah.
But then in the middle of it, your man Boogs came out and he played Nakamura down to the ring. I thought we were going to get a Nakamura match. No, he just danced down and then he danced back.
Yeah.
That whole thing, oh my God, I near died of secondhand cringe. That whole thing with the Miz and the Super Soaker.
Oh no.
And the crowd was deafeningly silent. I
don't know what they're doing, man. I don't know what they're doing. Like, all of creative need to be fired. It's just terrible.
Like, it was low level pantomime stuff. Like,
well, who's the for? Like, who's any of that for?
Well, it was for Pure Life. It was for that water company that had their logo attached on everything.
No, but I mean, like, I'm not encouraged to buy stuff for that. I'm not, I didn't enjoy it as a wrestling fan. And then they also ran trailers for Saudi Arabia, which is like, oh, great. Just rub the salt in more, right? Into the wounds. So, oh man, I don't know. Like,
but I mean, like, you couldn't take one of them things and give Becky Lynch 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like you said at the very start, the whole thing's just baffling.
Baffling. I think that's the word. Again, I don't hate it because there was a lot to like, but then they just make decisions and you're like, what are you talking about? So, if something was bad, we could come here and make fun of it, like we did with David Flair. But with this, it's like baffling. Bafflement is the word. Again, it comes literally the day after CM Punk broke the wrestling world, and this is their response, and that's how I see it. I know people are, oh, it's unfair to compare. It's like, okay, maybe, but SummerSlam should be a huge show, and I would see it as a direct comparison to be like, oh, we need to change this because look what happened. Let's put on the best show we can. And they didn't.
It's their second biggest show of the year. Like, it's,
Yeah. Poppy agrees with you. So look, the triple threat match for the Raw Women's Belt. This was an improvement. Can I just say, Nikki Ash is, oh god, I don't know why they're doing that, but it was a good match. It was a good match, but it's hampered by this whole thing.
It was good, and Nikki Ash, like you were saying, when I was watching that match, that was the one thing that really hit me. I was like, she's actually a really good wrestler. Like she was, everything she did in the ring was really fluid. It looked real. It looked impactful, especially given her size compared to Charlotte and Rhea.
I think it really works. It really works. That kind of big man, small man kind of thing. Like, she just works really well with Rhea and Flair. I think Flair hasn't looked this good in a very long time. But oh my god, like,
the gimmick is dung. I know everyone goes, oh, well, she came up with it. That doesn't mean it's good. That just means she came up with it.
Yeah, and but when he first brought it in, it had nuance, and now it has no nuance. And he took the belt off her, giving it to Flair, and it's just like, okay, fair enough. But man, Nikki deserves better than this.
They telegraphed that from the start.
Yeah,
they had the champion come out first to nothing, and then they had Charlotte Flair come out to the champion's entrance, basically. Like, the telegraph from the start. And if they were going to take it off Nikki, like, they didn't even give it to Ripley to do something with. Back to Charlotte Flair again.
Nobody wanted that. And I can clearly say that. Like, look, I'm not a big fan of any of the Flairs, but Rhea Ripley's your future. What are you doing? Like, she's great, ticks all the boxes for everything as well that they could actually push as far as the PR. But they don't do that because they're too small-minded, stupid. It's like, what are you doing?
Unless they're pushing another, like, a cross-promotional Charlotte Becky showdown, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. What, unify belts or?
I don't. Well, they can't unify them because they have, with Raw and SmackDown alone, they have 5 hours of television to fill. So I don't know what they're doing.
I don't. Again, bafflement. That's what we should call it. WWE bafflement. Anyway, let's finish this up and talk about something good, something positive.
Right.
So I would have to say though, right, and as the words are just out of my mouth, Edge and Seth Rollins, Edge's entrance, I popped ridiculously. I love the whole Brood stuff that he did on SmackDown.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, that's fantastic. Was not expecting Brood stuff, and then he came out with the Brood entrance. I was like, this is brilliant, and he did his whole thing, and I just really love. If Edge is going to do this properly, I think this is cool because they've never gone back to the Brood stuff ever. And it's like, well, why not? Why not go back?
It brought me right, as soon as I heard that.
Yeah.
It brought me right back to sitting in front of the LTV with my N64 playing WrestleMania 2000.
Oh man.
There's the Brood was big in it.
But no, what's cool about it is like, yeah, they telegraphed a little bit on SmackDown by doing the bloodbath on SmackDown. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's a shame that it's the same night that CM Punk came out, but it was still cool to see.
And it's a shame that the bloodbath was black for some reason.
Yeah, for some reason. It's like, okay. But I thought it was a really, really cool thing. And if that's what Edge is going to do now, I think that's awesome because he really needs a character change. It just a little to shake it up a little bit because he hasn't really gone through that since he's been back. But this match was very good. This match was really good. They give it a B+. I would say, yeah, absolutely. I knew Rollins and Edge was going to probably be the best workhorse match tonight. And it was great to see Edge getting the win. I love that. I love the crossface move he's doing. I think that's sick. It's cool. It's very good. This was definitely. If you don't watch anything else of this night, and I wouldn't recommend you do, watch this match because it's fun. A lot of fun.
I wouldn't have much more to say. It was a fairly bright oasis in a sea of nonsense.
Speaking of which, next match. Jesus, where do we go with this match?
Again, it's just one of those matches that served nobody. Nobody came out of it looking good. So
Goldberg's leg was banjaxed from the beginning. When he walked out on the stage, I'm like, his leg is hurt. He is hurt, right? You can see it. He's walking and he's limping, basically, right? Watch it again, all right? You'll see it. He's limping. I'm like, his leg is hurt. He is a hurt man, right? Then Mr. Golf comes out and nobody cares. Goldberg, he doesn't get booed, but nobody cares, right? And they have this match, and to use the word match is very, very loose.
Yeah. Bobby Lashley, he was lucky a couple of times. Goldberg threw him off the top turnbuckle and barely threw him, and you could see he had to turn himself in midair or he was going to come down on top of his head.
Goldberg is dangerous. I'm going to say it. Goldberg is a dangerous, and he always has been. Like, come on, like, he's a dangerous.
Yeah, Bret Hart fan here.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. Better than most. Look what he did to the Undertaker, though. He's a dangerous man. He just does not care.
Yeah.
But look, that is what it is. And then sorry, go on.
But even before we get to the Sun, right? I mean, if you're going to put Bobby Lashley over, put him over. Have him beat Goldberg. Don't have some nonsense with MVP hitting him in the knee and then the match has to be called off. Just put him over. Just put somebody over. And look, we are going to take our break here because we've just hit time for the Phoenix FM show. If you're watching on the stream, we're not going anywhere. But if you're watching this on Phoenix 92.5 FM, go over to Nerd to Know Media. You'll be able to get the full show completely unedited, and also the True Penny channel as well. So we'll be back next week, same time here on Phoenix 92.5 FM. But we are going to have to end the show here for the Phoenix FM listeners. All right, guys, and we're back here on the stream. So there we go. I just noticed the time. I was just like, damn, we're really going to get into this and we have so much to keep going. Yeah, man, I agree. And when it comes to it, I just don't understand why they just didn't give him the win. Didn't give him that big... Because Goldberg has made nobody. Goldberg has made nobody since he's come back. Nobody. And Lashley could have done the whole Brock thing that Brock did after he beat the Undertaker. Had shirts made up, who's next. Exactly. I am, or
nobody's next. I beat him. You know,
Yeah.
this could have been. Seems what they were kind of doing. When Goldberg walked out, I was like, oh, Goldberg's losing. He's injured. You know, I didn't get that big fight feel off him, and then he didn't. The referee stopped the match. Okay,
because he got tapped with a stick.
yeah. But look, Lashley then grabbed the chair and he started hitting him with the leg. Now, to be fair, as I said, his leg looked hurt. You know, I couldn't stomach commentary, so I didn't listen to it. I don't know if they were building that up or not, but yeah. And then Goldberg's son jumps in and
passes out.
But after that, and then Goldberg comes out and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna pay. And then I couldn't help focus on Gabe's face, right? Gage's face, and he's smiling and laughing. And I'm like, "What are you doing? Why are you laughing?"
Like it was a full Nelson lock you were in. Like hold your neck. Just
no, but he was just standing there like awkwardly as like Goldberg was holding him, and you could see that he's pissing himself laughing. And you're like, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever. It's the worst thing. You didn't practice this.
The worst thing was that this all felt very, very much like it was leading up to a rematch or to a continued feud.
Don't say that. That's going to happen. Oh no! And then Goldberg's going to win the belt, and that's what's going to happen. Oh Jesus! Oh man! You know, maybe we have a new David Flair in Gage or Gabe or whatever his name is. You know, maybe he might start wrestling.
But like the thing, like why set up an angle if you're not going to, you know, if you're not going to do something with it? So
we have a comment here from You Know the Deal. Apparently there was no security at the event last night. How did Youngberg get in the ring? Youngberg, I like that name. That's amazing. Oh Jesus, yeah, it was terrible stuff altogether. I don't know how he got in the ring. Like I was just watching it, and then there you go, just cack, absolute cack. Universal Championship match: John Cena versus Roman Reigns. Again, the head of the table stuff is cool. It's like the best thing that they've done in a while. Cena looked okay here. He looked, you know, like he wanted to be there, like he showed up to work.
Gotta give it to him. And like I say, I've never been a fan of Reigns. I've never been a fan of Cena, but he showed up with his working boots on. He really worked the crowd. Like I say, this was when the crowd finally came alive. And he didn't phone it in. Like for a guy who hasn't been in the ring for a long time, and for a guy who probably has a lot of, you know, Hollywood insurers and directors and stuff saying "do not get hurt," like he didn't hold back.
No,
I thought it was a really decent match.
There were some really good spots in this as well. They obviously hit their big, you know, the big finishers and stuff like that. The FTF still looks atrocious. But you know, it was still good. I wasn't expecting an announced table bump, but this
that's
is
a good one. That table
gimmicked
really well. Like it just
exploded like the old days where they just explode. The only thing about it is I wasn't happy with the ending sequence, but then it's set up to something bigger, so it's like okay. But my question here is: do you think Cena is done going for the belt?
I don't know.
Why do you think he came back? What was the purpose of this feud?
Well, I mean, he came back because they needed a big name to return with, you know, after the pandemic and all that. I don't think I think he's done with the belt. I don't think he's quite done. Now, maybe I read this wrong, but did someone say that after the show went off air, Brock beat the hell out of Cena?
Yeah, he gave him an F5.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there's something there happening.
That puzzles me. Why wasn't that on TV?
Yeah, that's huge.
That was a lot bigger than what happened after the match anyway. But
maybe they'll show it on SmackDown next week, like a this is what happened when the show went off the air. I don't like. I mean, Cena specifically came out when he at Money in the Bank and he said, "I'm not here for one run. I'm back, baby." You know, like he. But if he's not doing anything with Brock, and he's done with the title, like, where does he go from here?
Exactly. You know, I guess we'll find out probably tomorrow night on Raw. Oh no, well, where is he? Because he's not on SmackDown. He's not on Raw. Because like Goldberg is sorry, Goldberg. Sorry, Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar probably would be on SmackDown if he's going against
Reigns.
Reigns. So
yeah,
maybe that's where Cena's going. We don't know these things yet because you know, for a commentary team that talk so much bollocks, they don't explain anything, so we don't know where they are. You know, but I'm pretty sure on Raw or SmackDown they'll let us know what's up with that. But yeah, obviously then Brock Lesnar comes out, and the next big thing is Brock Lesnar going against Roman Reigns with the Paul Heyman stuff, which is pretty cool, a cool little wrinkle in the fabric of this. So
yeah,
I'm looking forward to that. At least that'll be fun.
that's the most interesting part of it for me is how Heyman reacts to it because I mean, neither of them winning the title inspires me all that much.
Yeah.
Reigns retains it, but like he's already been put massively over the past year. So that storyline just continues. But Brock wins it, and like we all know what it's like when Brock wins the title.
Yeah, I don't know. I did enjoy Brock just reading, you know, the Outstorm magazine and not watching Raw. I thought that was amazing. Yeah. I just really enjoyed how he just does not care about the product at all. It's like, yeah, whatever. This is hilarious. You know, because obviously
he looked great as well.
Oh man, I don't know. People are like, "Oh, he should have cut his hair, or grew the beard out, or shaved." I'm like, "No, man, he looked great." Like,
would you give Brock Lesnar just fashion advice?
Oh well, as I said, you know, I think it was a good look. You know, it looks different anyway. You know, which is cool. Yeah. But also, actually, before we wrap up here, WWE 2K 2022 was shown as well last night, and it's like, okay, you know, it's going to be out in January, which is bizarre. But yeah, I don't know what they're gonna have a roster of 4 people. Is that it? Like, you know,
that's actually what I had down on my one of the first notes I have is sponsored by 2K22. Lol.
Yeah, it's like there's 4 people and just keep getting rid of people. So it's like,
keep getting rid of people, and the last 2K, like everyone knows what a disaster it was.
Oh man, can I just say though, the actual like 2022 career mode did actually predict a lot about what happened in 2022, to be fair.
Did it actually?
Yeah, kind of, in a weird way. It has loads of empty arena matches, right? I swear to God, has lots of empty arena matches and a really weird thing with Matt Hardy and The Undertaker. So in its bizarreness, it actually predicts a lot of what happened. So while it was a train wreck, I do think people need to be aware of how weird that game actually is. When you start playing the career mode, it's bizarre. Absolutely bizarre.
I've never played it. In fact, I've only played 1 or 2 of the 2K games. I really don't like them. Yeah, I think they go far too much into the it's almost more like a simulator than an arcade type thing, and it's really but more the arcade end of it I'd be looking at. So I picked up a couple of them over the years to give them a go and try them, but have never been for me.
Oh, that's fair. But what I will say is, like, you know, when I played it, and I have streamed some of it on my Twitch as well, so anyone who's on my Twitch can go back and watch it. I might do it again, a full playthrough of it, but when I was playing it, I'm like, oh my God, they've just predicted 2020, like down to a T. It's like WWE don't do the empty arena stuff. They never really have. And for some reason, it's just there. So, you know, it is one of those things where, like, when you're playing the game, I like to see what the career mode is like. But I agree, I prefer the arcade stuff to the sim stuff anyway. But the game itself is a train wreck.
Does half the roster get fired in the story mode?
No, but you do several times. And then Samoa Joe has a robotic arm for some reason. Great. Not a joke. Not a joke. Not a joke. He tries to kill you with a robotic arm for some reason.
Actually, speaking of, well, kind of like computer games, just before we finish with SummerSlam, one other thing I'll say is, please stop this bloody CGI stuff for entrances.
The graphics, they look
so bad.
For the once or twice they work. Now with Edge's stuff, that looked pretty cool, but that was it. Everything else was awful.
Yeah, I'm not. I like, and you really like the whole reason you pay like a huge price for a ticket to go see a live show is to be given a live spectacle. So I also kind of feel like they're robbing the fans in the stadium a wee bit because what they see is just the entranceway.
The production, actually, on that point, the production tonight was atrocious too. It looked terrible. It looked like a garbage tier house show. And you know what? Actually, that's insulting. Anytime I've been to the house show, it looks pretty good. With the X stage that they have now with the lights and stuff, it looks pretty good in the O2 or the Tree Arena now in Dublin. Yeah, it looked awful. It looked like they were just, all right, we'll go out there and we'll, who cares?
Yeah, but it's again, I think it's that money saving thing rather than have people coming up with, because one of the great things about pay-per-views used to be when they would have this awesome, specific set, the stage, man. And it would be themed, and like some of them, even the ones for like the B-level pay-per-views, like Armageddon and all
Cyber
that.
Sunday.
Oh, they used to put loads of effort into them, and now it's just the same stuff, and they put a CGI snake across the.
Remember Backlash when they had the
hooks?
Yeah. It's one good thing about the show being a show where we go back and look at past stuff, because we're like, oh, this is great. It's great for a reason, and when you compare it to modern day, you're like, yeah, it is. But look, I would say on this show, to wrap up, if you haven't seen SummerSlam, don't bother. Watch Edge and Rollins, and you're good. That's all you need to watch. Yeah, it's a strong D.
Yeah, D is generous.
Yeah. Or you can give them a did not complete. All right. Well, look, let's get into some positive, because obviously we want to be positive here on the show. So on Friday night, the wrestling world got its biggest wrestling moment in years, and it's the arrival of CM Punk. Now, not only that, before we get into it, obviously, Martin, you're our AEW guy, and it was there were some comments that, wouldn't it be funny if he didn't show up? And don't get me wrong, I thought that would have been hilarious. But they did announce a lot that he was gonna be here, and they kind of built the show around him, and But I did think it was smart that they opened up the show by bringing out Punk, and the reason why is because that chant would have been happening all night. So they were smart. Another reason as well, like they don't have Overrun on TNT, I don't believe. So. No. The show ends when it ends, and that's kind of it. But at least with this, you can adjust your time. So, if Punk had gone on for 40 minutes or something, they could have adjusted. So he went about 20 minutes. Then his introduction was 10, and then talked around for about 10, and they set up the match at All Out. So I have my thoughts, and they're controversial. But I'm going to let you have your thoughts first.
Well, the first thing I'd say is, absolutely, he had to come out first. There was 3 matches in the show. Apart from the Jade Cargill match, which was a squash, the other 2 matches were good. The Jurassic Express match was really good. The John Moxley Daniel Garcia match was great. In fact, it had really cool finish. But nobody was going to sit through any of those matches knowing that CM Punk was up next and not just chant his name. Like, he had to come out first.
It was the only way. There was no other way to do it.
It was perfect.
Well, can I just say this as well, right? Not only did this get like wrestling news, but if you Google CM Punk debut, ESPN, CNET, TV Now, Dexter.com, CBS Sports, Bleacher Report, Digital Spy, Sports Illustrated.
Oh, it was everywhere. He was
everywhere.
So CM Punk was the #1 hashtag on Twitter for like 12 hours, but of the top 25 hashtags, 5 of them were about so there was CM Punk, and then there was Clobbering Time, and then there was Summer of Punk or whatever it was, but there was 5 hashtags all about Punk in the top 25. He came out, the cult of personality started, so thankfully they've got that.
Great choice to keep it.
Fantastic. I can't remember what it was, but I know we played something else like on the Indies and ROH and that, but I think cult of personality is what's most associated with him.
Well, that was his famous one from when he was in Ring of Honor as well. He did something else similar, and he, like when he was in TNA, he used Raven's music. But, it's always kind of been.
That's been, so as soon as it hit, people knew what it was.
Also, the graphics.
the graphics came up, but I mean, that crowd, every time you thought they'd peaked, they just got louder and louder. Yeah. So the music hit and they just erupted. And then he walked out and they went up another level.
Yeah.
And he dropped to his knees and looked out of the crowd and they went up another level. Yeah. And then he stage dived into the crowd. And like cool. They were, I thought that was it. I thought that the place is going to come unglued.
It did. It did. I have to say, you know, even though there was a 4-man booth there, they all kept their mouth shut. Which was amazing until it was appropriate to talk, because again, if that had been WWE, they would have just said something stupid.
Thankfully. Yeah. I slightly disagree with you on Taz. I actually think Taz is one of the better commentators, but far too many.
Look, with Taz, I don't know. I'll get to it. Don't worry. I said I have a controversial opinion, but I'll get to it. Go on.
But I think we can both agree, 4 commentators for an hour-long show.
Way too much.
Far too many. Yeah. Far too many. Yeah, I thought what he said in the ring was fantastic. Like, everyone knew what he was talking about, but it didn't turn into a typical, you know, jabs at WWE or whatever. He went out, he talked about what he needed to do to get healthy, and he hopes people can understand. And now he's back. Mm-hmm. He came in and the first thing he did was put over Britt Baker. Yep. And then he put over Darby Allin. You know, like, he's okay. So maybe I'm being worked here, because like I've heard all the stories about him being, you know, difficult backstage and all that. But I don't know. He just seemed so genuine. He seemed so genuinely happy to be there. He seemed genuinely overcome by the emotion of the crowd. He seemed.
I will give you that one. Yeah.
You know, he really, really seemed to be there for all the right reasons. So I remember last week we were talking about it, and you said, or maybe he was running out of money.
I still believe that.
I don't know.
I still believe that.
Yeah, like I said, maybe I'm being worked. He's an excellent performer, but the whole thing felt real and honest and emotional, and I just completely bought into it. And yeah, like everyone else, I've watched it 20 times on YouTube since.
Last time I checked, it's 2.5 million.
I'd say that's going to keep going. The only thing I can compare it to, and this is, God, one of the many tragedies of the empty arena era, is the Sting showing up.
Yeah.
Because that was a socially distanced audience. I think there wasn't even 1,000 people in the arena, and they made that sound like a full arena.
You know, the thing about it is, though, like, it's so cool that it happened now after the pandemic. You know, I think it's you know, and it really is one of those moments. Like, what I'm going to say next is going to upset a lot of people, but I want to be positive with it. So it was an amazing moment. It's like one of those moments where you're like, this is what wrestling is. This is what it should feel like. This is the emotion you should get. This is what it should sound like. This is all that kind of stuff. And I think for everyone who wanted it, it's exactly what you wanted. Like, they did it right. They did it perfect. It's about as good as it's going to be. And it's also something that a lot of people didn't think was going to happen. I knew it would happen eventually, because, you know, we all got to get paid. And, you know, once there's someone willing to give money up, you know, workers are going to get it. And, you know, I think there's an element of that. Now, what I did appreciate was the Darby Allin stuff. That was cool. I think working with him is a great idea. And, yeah. Now, do you have any more positive things to say before I start getting negative?
No, that was Dynamite I'm thinking of. No, the rest of the card was really good. Like I said, Jurassic Express match was great fun. Kiera Hogan, Jade Cargill was a squash, and then the John Moxley match. But like, the whole thing was an afterthought. Like, people were just, this was a real moment. I was high on this. Like,
it was great
today.
Today still
just buzzing.
Wow.
SummerSlam brought me down a bit, but
yeah, no, SummerSlam did that. It was, yeah. I'd say though, it was you know, and if people are in the chat want to comment on what you thought about CM Punk, please do. And who you agree with, like, please let us know. Rampage is a cool show. I think an hour is, you know, more than enough for an extra show, and it's, you know, it's going to smash SmackDown's ratings. Like, I guarantee you the ratings for this thing were through the roof. And you know what? Look, AEW might actually be a proper competition for WWE if this keeps going. Like they're getting there. Punk was he's probably the big star in the world by being Punk, if that makes sense. You know, Danny Bryan coming in, you have probably the best wrestler in the world. And then you bring in Bray Wyatt. You know, it's like WWE are just giving them stars to make their company with, and then by giving fans what they want, which is exactly what this was. And look, I'm not going to say that's a bad idea. I'm not going to say that's a stupid thing to do. No, absolutely not. You listen to your customers. The rule about making money is you give the fans what they want and they will make money. And here's the thing, the AEW crowd, it wasn't only, you know, neckbeards. There was a lot of women there, a lot of kids there. So you're like, wow, okay, this is working, you know, and they're going straight to trend. Whether you like the product or don't, AEW are actually doing it, you know. That being said, with CM Punk, 7 years ago, I would have been your man in the crowd crying. 7 years ago. It was all I wanted at one point. More than anything. I'll be honest with you. 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, that's awesome. 3 years ago, I would have been like, that's really interesting. 2 years ago, I would have, you know, been happy to see it. And now I'm like, okay, fine. You know, I think he waited too long. Personally, I think he waited far too long. And the reason why is because he damaged his credibility so much by doing the other things. Being an actor is cool, but his movie's bombed. Being a comic writer, I love comics. The comics weren't amazing, but he still did it. I appreciate that, and you can totally go and do it. The UFC thing really hurt, like crippled him, because he's not the best in the world. He can't fight. He has no legitimacy. You know, he got killed twice and then only has a win because of a drug test. So I'm like, okay, your whole shoot-based approach isn't real because you're not actually able to fight. So that did a lot of damage to him. The money thing as well, it's like, okay, so you waited 7 years, so how much money do you actually need? You know, and I'm just like, okay, that's another thing that I just can't turn these off. And that's what I mean. You got to come back a couple of years later, I would. Or if you had him in there in AEW from the beginning to be like, I want to be there to take it to WWE, fine. But he didn't. You know, he actually said, I don't want to do it. Now, the other side is his promo was quite good, and it was actually a great promo. And okay, if you loved it, I do understand why. Again, 7 years ago, I would have been all over this. I would have been your man crying in the ring, literally, or in the crowd, literally, right? But it's 7 years ago. You need to get over that. You know, it's like, you need to get over it. It's kind of lame, you know, to still dwell on that 7 years later when you're a millionaire, you know.
But I mean, he clearly still has that connection with the fans. I kind of agree with you about, I think the time for him to come in was at the start to really buy into AEW, to show a bit of faith in them. Yeah. It was a wee bit like he was sitting back and waiting to see if it was a success or not before he.
And it's smart business to do that. But the problem with that is the biggest problem with Punk is, right, and I'll be honest with you, this is why I love Punk. He was the anti-authority figure.
Yeah.
Now he's not. You know, when he was in the WWE, you got behind him because he was fighting Truth to Power. He was like the rebel. Now he's in AEW. Who's he rebelling against?
Yeah, but that's not to say that he's going to be the same character 7 years later. I mean, I think he's a good and a smart enough performer to you know, change with the times.
But that's the problem. He hasn't.
But we don't know. We haven't seen what he's going to do yet. But they have set themselves a really high bar here. Yeah. So the debut was amazing. It was an all-time wrestling moment, like wrestling industry moment.
Oh, but wrestling period. This is one of those big mega moments, and you can't take that away from them. They've done it and they've earned it. And here's the thing, like, again, I'm a huge CM Punk fan. It's just a shame there are these other elements for me that just, and he even mentioned it in the promo. He's aware of it. He's aware of what he did. He knows what he did. And he apologized for it. He's like, look, I'm sorry for what I've done. It's like, yeah, we know what you did. Like, you cock teased everybody for 7 years. You know, it's like you can't do that to people who supported you. You know what I mean? So
but they had like you say, an amazing moment.
Yeah.
But the moment's passed, and now it's what's he going to do?
Yeah, that's
like
the thing. Yeah,
we've seen wrestlers come in with amazing returns and then do nothing. Edge's return at the Rumble was huge, but his run since then has been on and off, hot and cold.
I can't really blame him. He came just
before
the
pandemic, he got injured, and the pandemic, and
that's just shitty luck. That's just bad luck.
Just an example. They've set a really high bar now. It's great, great to be ambitious, and like I say, a hell of a moment. But yeah, the real work starts now.
Absolutely. Like, and here's the thing: I'm willing to park a lot of this based on what happens next. Like, because look, as I said, like AEW now have my interest. Like I'm happy to watch that show every week because it's, you know, it is genuinely probably the best show you can watch if you're a wrestling fan. The danger becomes if it just, you know, oh, we're not WWE. That's where I'm like, all right, we got to be careful, because then it stops being its own thing. And my big problem with this character, if it is a character, is that it's not based in Punk's work. Now, Punk's work has been some of the best cerebral stuff in the business. Like his Straight Edge Society stuff was brilliant. His Cult Leader stuff was super good, and the whole best in the world thing. He has to rebuild that all up again from the fact that you're working in front of an extremely knowledgeable fan base. You know, because everyone who watches AEW is a smart. You know, we all know how it goes on. We know how the business works. It's not WWE. How it works is based on that it's an educated crowd. He now has to fight, and I hope when he is doing interviews with people or promos, they're like, well, we've seen what your fights are actually like. How are you the best in the world?
Yeah, I think that they'll do that.
I think so too.
They've never shied away from saying stuff in promos before that, you know, like fans are thinking, like they give, you know, MJF gives Jericho slagging about being fat, and you know, like,
and you know, and I think these are the things that needs to happen. And I think if Punk's able to roll with that and grow into a proper character now that he's like, right, well, I've done all this, let's move on to it. And that's what Jericho can do. I think Jericho's work in AEW has been amazing, but it just feels like Punk is a WWE guy in AEW. So until he stops being that.
Oh, I didn't get that.
Oh man, I did.
Feeling at all.
I did. He was only short of coming out and talking about Johnny Ace. You know.
No, I've always seen him as, even with his time in WWE, I've always seen him as more of an indie ROH guy.
Well, there was a good comment where it's like, without WWE, he'd be homeless. So, you know, as I mean, like, he was a rebel in the big machine, and I'm like, how are you a rebel in the machine that's built by rebels?
Yeah, but like you say, that was his character. That's not to say that that's what it has to be now.
This is where I'm coming from with that. So as I said, you know, we're going to watch it. You have me in AEW. I'm watching AEW now and actually supporting it and hoping that it does well, because it does have everything you want. That dreg we watched last night is the alternative. So, you know, it's cool and it's exciting. And as I said, look, if you were a fan of what happened on Friday night with AEW, I totally get it. As I said, 7 years ago, I'd be your man in the crowd, bawling, crying. You know, literally. So,
what they have now is a hell of an opportunity, because this All Out, I think this is going to be by far their biggest selling pay-per-view.
And it's going to be game changing. It might actually just do that for them. Yeah.
Now, prior to All Out, their biggest selling pay-per-view was Revolution, and that actually damaged them, because they had a huge audience, and then they had one of the worst moments. So I think they'll be smart enough to know that for the next few weeks, there's going to be a lot of new A's on us, that All Out is going to be the biggest pay-per-view ever, and there can be no mess-ups. Everyone's got to pull it out of the bag. Like, this is where we like not only make up for the people we lost at Revolution, this is where we grab a whole new audience, or this is where we bring back an audience that has left wrestling or sort of lapsed fans. And I think they're smart enough to know that.
Yeah, and you know, dude, that's a good point. Like, as I said, the war was with NXT. They've won that war. Now the war is against WWE, and you know what? WWE don't seem like they want to fight that war because they're losing. Like,
oh yeah, I think they're looking at. I think Revolution did. I think when it first came out, they said it had 120,000 buys, but I think that creeped up because the way pay-per-view buys are calculated is really strange. It doesn't come out till months later, and I think it ended up being 130 or 135.
Jeez.
But God, they must be pushing towards 200,000 with Punk.
And you know, again, like, you know, we're just about to have Daniel Bryan debut as well. So once that happens, you know, as I said, you have CM Punk, who is the hottest free agent in wrestling, or was. He is that name, and you know, people say he's not over. It's like, yeah, he is. Did you not hear that? He's over. He is a mega star. Daniel Bryan is, you know, the best wrestler in the world. Like, I can't wait for him to be going in there with Hangman Page, having matches with Omega. Like, even, you know, handcuffs off matches with Jericho. You know, it's like, it's gonna be ridiculous.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, so the 7 years away has meant that if he can still go in the ring, we'll find it all out. If he can still go, we have dream matches with people he has never been in the ring with. He's never been in the ring with Kenny Omega, with Hangman Page, with the Lucha Bros, like with Darby Allin coming up. I don't know. I assume at some stage he crossed paths with Jericho. I don't know.
He did loads of times.
But apart from Jericho, I don't think he's been in the ring with anyone else in AEW. So there's a whole litany
and Impact
of just classic matches, and then
and Impact,
pulling
and
the
Japan.
Impact crowd
and Japan,
New Japan.
Like, there was a good point made. I can't remember. I think it was on Stephen Larson's show. They were talking about it going in Raw, where it's like AEW isn't only a door to AEW; it's a doorway to Impact, Japan, and AEW, which is amazing.
AAA, NWA.
Exactly. These are all places that they can go, and it's just like, if that's what's happened, if that's the landscape that we have, WWE's finished, man. Like, it's in a lot of trouble. It's in an awful, and they've done it all to themselves. They've done it all to themselves.
Yeah. Well, there's two different fans. You got your more casual fans, and there's always going to be more of them. So I suspect WWE will always be the bigger company, and I'm kind of okay with that, because that rabid, tightly packed 15,000 people, you know, was more impactful to me than the 50,000 in the stadium. So I'm okay as long as AEW maintains the quality. I'm okay with them being the second company and being the company for wrestling fans, hardcore fans, smarks, whatever you want to call them, and let WWE do the casual audiences and the younger audiences and all that, and let them be two different products.
Well, they are going to be two different products, but like, this happened with WCW as well, where like WCW was for a very long time the product, and people don't remember this. What was the Smark product? It was the product that you watched in 1996, because that's where the wrestling was. WWE, 1994, 1995, 1996. That's where the wrestling was.
Even back to the 80s, like Terry Funk and Ric Flair battering each other.
Exactly.
Regal and Finlay, like, that's where the fighting was.
But WWE has never been that. It was that kind of because there was no one else left, and you know, they manufacture with NXT. So, you know, but with that going in particular, like, I don't know how much that's going to be able to sustain itself when, you know, we're watching a show like SummerSlam and there's one match that we can talk about, and one moment from AEW just changed the entire landscape of everything. So I don't know, man. Like, yeah, you said it might be the biggest company ever, but things are different. We know what happens when WWE wins. The product is hostile against everybody, and you know, Vince isn't Vince anymore. Vince is like 70 and almost checking out here.
And I have serious concerns. So, like, obviously we're not going to cover much of the takeover tonight, But in general, I have serious concerns about.
Now we get to that next week. We will get to that next week.
Yeah, we'll do that next week. But in general, I have serious concerns about NXT. So obviously, you had all the firings. Now they're going to do these, change up the way it is. They only want big guys. They only want guys under 30. And it turns out that the next 3 or 4 NXTs are all going to be pre-recorded.
Oh, God.
And USA is not happy with that. USA, the TV station, they're saying, well, we paid for a live weekly show. Yeah. Now you're giving us a month of pre-records. So, I mean, I'm just looking forward to whenever it comes around to renewing the contract for, a weekly NXT show. I mean, I'd have serious concerns that USA is going to say, we'll give you it at a vastly reduced price, or we don't want it.
And that's fair. Like the ratings, again, WWE had made more money over the pandemic than they ever have. But how much, and again, that's why, it was a perfect time to sell. But, eventually your fan base is just going to stop. And if you have 30 people and 2 big stars, like let's say Roman Reigns gets injured, right? Roman Reigns and Edge Orton gets injured. That's most of your show finished. And like that's it. Like who else are you going to put out there? You fired the rest. Yeah. But
who's coming up after them? It's all very well saying, "Oh, we only want huge guys and we only want them under 30." But like those guys, it takes years to get to a level where you're able to be a convincing main event or even mid card.
But they were getting there with Lashley, and they had the chance to cement that now. And they just didn't do it. So fair play to AEW. I have to say, for all this criticism I would give them, when the chips are down, they're out there making moments. And again, the fact that it's the gateway to Impact, it's the gateway to New Japan, it's the gateway to all these other promotions. I do think there's a lot of stock in that saying together we're an alternative to WWE, like a proper like they obviously are alternative, I mean like competition. So maybe separately not, but all together being that that horde, particularly when WWE are like, we have literally nothing going on. I think this is a matter of time.
It means you can regularly, or at least semi-regularly, have those huge surprise pops. Because so you get that whenever you hire new talent and you bring them in, but you can only do that so many times. You can't be hiring new people every week. Exactly. But when you have open relationships with AAA, with NWA, with New Japan, it means you can bring in, every so often bring in someone from the other company to.
Well, that's it. Here's the thing: you can have Kenta versus Punk on a pay-per-view. You have imagine what the crowd would be like if Omega's out giving one of his waffly things and then Kota Ibushi shows up. Yeah.
Boom. Just
like this is it. Like these are things that you can just do, but in WWE you can't. And it doesn't look like they want to. And honestly, I think the time has come and gone for that. I think the closest we got to having a product that we as fans, and I include myself in this, when I say Mark or Smark, I'm doing a wrestling podcast the past 15 years. Come on.
Nerd to know.
Exactly, yeah, right. So it's a term of endearment, if anything else. But like that show that we wanted, it has come and gone. And it was NXT 2014 to 2016. Yeah. So look, it is what it is. It's I'm excited now as an AEW watcher. I wouldn't call myself a fan yet because I'm still quite hesitant to do that. But I am enjoying what I'm seeing. And I think as we're getting on,
The other thing I'll say about it is a really pleasant surprise I got during the week was that Dynamite this week on Friday was brilliant, and I really expected Dynamite to just be a kind of a. Yeah, it's okay, but we're waiting until Friday, really. But no, Dynamite was a bloody class show.
And the show the week before with Christian Cage winning the belt was amazing.
Oh, excellent.
Now, you actually called that, and I was like, oh, that might actually happen. And then when I was checking my Twitter feed at like 6 a.m, I saw, actually, no, I lie. I got an email from Impact telling me congratulate, they send
To
out the press.
Christian.
Congratulating Christian Cage. I'm like, what? I was like, oh, okay, I guess that happened last night. So yeah, that's how I found out about it. But man, I and then people are like, oh, Christian Cage is great. I'm like, yeah, he is. He's really good.
I had to unsubscribe from every. So I hate spoilers.
Right.
I had to unsubscribe from every email I could think of. And I remember last year at AEW's Winter is Coming, I managed to avoid everything. I'd went to work the next day. I'd stayed away from all the social media. I hadn't seen anything. I got home. I was about to put on Winter is Coming, going to sit and watch it. And the next thing I got this email come through on my phone. I thought, it's okay, I'll open the email because, like,
what's it going to be? Yeah,
what's it going to be? And I'd bought a T-shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. Pro Wrestling Tees now had my email address, and I opened it up, and it was Pro Wrestling Tees debuting their new AEW Sting T-shirt.
Oh God,
brilliant!
There you go.
So I've unsubscribed from everything.
Well, with Impact sending out their pressers, though, it's like it's par for the course, basically being on the mailing list. But yeah, so I found about it, so I don't have the opportunity to do that. But I wasn't upset because I was happy for Christian Cage.
Oh yeah.
And then I went back and watched the match, and it was quite good. But this was something that happened by accident. So this is kind of the opposite of the Becky Lynch thing, where like they were supposed to have Hangman, but obviously his wife's having a baby, so he was like, no, look, I can't be there. So the Christian Cage thing was thrown together at the last moment, and damn, it's great. It's such
great.
It's a great little thing to do, and it's a great run.
The belt thing really gives it a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Impact. Not to excuse the pun. Because I thought it was strange that they do the match twice, that they do it on Rampage and then they do it on a pay-per-view so soon afterwards.
Yeah, but the pay-per-view that's obviously the Omega's winning that, but like,
oh yeah,
definitely
I'd assume so.
But breaking up the belts is cool because Christian is like an Impact legend, like he's a TNA legend, like he actually genuinely is. So it's cool for him to go back and be there now, while not working for Impact, but working for AEW, still having that kind of connection. And if nothing else, it gives that bit of legitimacy towards what we were saying, where it's like, okay, you can work for these companies, but you can also kind of hold belts for anywhere, and they'll still be respected. And that was the problem that New Japan had with TNA, where belts would just be, I know belts are props, but like they would be treated horrifically, and where 2007 was not a good time if you were a fan of belts.
Yeah, I honest to God, I think it should be a given. I don't think people should just accept that belts are props. I mean, it shouldn't be. I think the AEW titles have real legitimacy. Like,
yeah, they do.
Obviously not as a combat sport.
No, but for what they are in wrestling, yeah.
The way they're treated, people hold them, for significant lengths of time, and they defend them like in big matches. I think the TNT title might be even more prestigious than the AEW title.
But that's fair, because that's kind of like their television belt. That's the one that's defended most.
Yeah, that run Cody had with it, where he was bringing in like indie guys every week. That was fantastic.
But the same thing's happened now with the Impact belt, where it's like, wow, that's, even though it's an Impact belt, it's a thing you expect to see on AEW, which is wild. It's completely uncharted.
Yeah, it brings back some of the prestige, like the IWGP title. Even though the new one looks like the old Divas title, like it still has prestige. It still has. So I don't think we should just dismiss belts as props, because they can be more than that.
Well, see, that's the thing, but I'm like, people are. It is an argument, and it's an argument I do kind of see the point of. But it's nice to see, as someone who loves belts, it's nice to see that they are being treated in such a way that you can buy into it. And what's the point of a title match if you're not invested in it? It's kind of, to bring it in, it's like Captain America's shield. It's like, yeah, that's a prop, but it means something. Yeah. And it should be the same way. It's like, okay, this is what you're fighting for. This is the whole point of it. Why is it important? I'm just seeing Christian Cage with those belts. It's like, wow, man, this is like a really cool moment. And for me, that was a bigger moment than the CM Punk thing, because Christian Cage earned it. He deserves it. He's like, yes, you do deserve it. This is a big moment for you. And it was a huge moment, and people were excited about it, but obviously not, because like It's Christian Cage. Well, for me as an Impact fan, I was like, this is brilliant.
He's been brilliant in the ring. Like I can only imagine that they have something huge planned for that match at All Out.
I hope so. And I'm excited about All Out. I think that's going to be probably show of the year, I think, at this point.
I mean, it has to be, because they're going to have a whole new audience. It's probably going to be the most days they've ever had in a pay-per-view. I mean, they got to pull this out of the bag.
Well, look, obviously we didn't get time to open the phone lines today because we've gone nearly 2 hours because there was so much to talk about. But again, I want to thank everybody in the chat. You know the deal. You're a legend. Thank you very much. Hit subscribe if you haven't. We appreciate it. Martin.
Yes.
Anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Yes. This week I have been watching a HBO series called Succession.
Okay.
And it's about this family, and the patriarch of it that runs this massive multimedia business. It's like the third biggest business in the world. He's a billionaire, but he takes like some sort of a stroke or attack, and the company looks like it's going to go to the kids, but then he recovers and he comes back and he decides he's going to keep the company, but he keeps running it in increasingly erratic ways, and the kids keep trying to find ways of deposing their own father from his own company. And I'm watching it going, man, this must be what it's like to be a McMahon.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. You should call it McMahon.
Yeah. So that's what I'm plugging. Watch Succession.
Awesome. Again, guys, we are on Phoenix 92.5 FM every Tuesday. Of course, if you're checking it out here, though, please subscribe if this is your first time. Like the video, leave a comment. That helps us a lot. If the best way to help us other than that is to spread the word of the show. We do a show every week. Usually it's on a Friday night, but we just had so much to talk about this week. So we'll be back next Friday. I think we're going to get back into the WCW ring, as it were, Martin. Yeah. I haven't decided yet what it is, but we will get there. Again, we have a whole run of shows gone all the way back. And if you're listening to us on the True Penny channel, what are you doing? Come over here, hang out with us live on the WrestlingRewind.com. But for my co-host, we will talk to you next week here on the Wrestling Rewind. Bye, guys.
Take care.